Hello, this is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming new moon, which will happen in almost 27 degrees of Capricorn on January 16th at 9:17 p.m. East Coast time in the US and 6:17 p.m. Pacific time in the US, which is also LA time. Now, this is the start of a new moon cycle, the new moon, right? And this is a really good time to go within and seed anything we would like to accomplish for the next 28 days and maybe even beyond, right? So as always with my new moon videos, I will talk about setting powerful intentions for the next 28 days and give you the best and most potent time to do this towards the end of the video. So stay tuned until then to get those times. And we're also about to enter eclipse season very soon, as this is the first of two eclipses that's coming up on January 31st, which will be a full moon eclipse, a lunar eclipse. And it's also going to be a super moon. So very, very potent. I will talk more about this in my next monthly forecasting forum on February 3rd, because we will be covering both eclipses on that day. So feel free to join us if you want to know a little bit more about how this will impact you personally and how you want to align yourself with this potent soul evolution energy that's available to us during eclipse season, and how to manage that and what to do with that, right? So to register, go to my website at astrologercoach.com. And if this is your first time hearing about my forums, feel free to stay tuned until the end of this video. I will go into more detail about what these forums are and what they provide for you, okay? Now, let's talk about the new moon. This is the first new moon of the year, and since it's in Capricorn, it represents the quest for mastery on the physical plane. So what you want to ask yourself with this new moon is, what is my relationship to the physical? And do I respect the laws of matter? And am I going about things in a realistic way in my life? And how committed am I really to doing that? And where does my inner compass point, right? So we all have an inner compass that kind of like tells us, it steers us in the right direction. There's sort of a feeling that we're getting like, oh, this is where I need to be going. So where is that inner compass pointing, right? And what am I willing to undergo to overcome adversity and stick to my course, to the course that the compass is telling me to go, right? So that was a lot of questions just to guide us into the new moon energy. With all my questions, feel free to use them, don't use them, use whichever ones resonate most with you. You can meditate on them, you can use them with your journal if you want to journal on them, or you can just have them in the back of your mind for the month to just see, what resonates with these questions and what's coming up as you're doing your day-to-day, right? And also all the questions from this video are always available on my website at astrologercoach.com via the weekly forecasts after January 14th. And you can also sign up to receive these weekly forecasts via email in the future if you email us to info@astrologercoach.com and just write weekly forecasts in the subject line, and then my assistant will add you to that mailing list. There's also another mailing list that's available too, that's just a newsletter, but we'll talk about that at the end of the video as well. All right. Now back to the new moon in Capricorn. The highest vibration of Capricorn is the development of responsibility, resourcefulness, reliability, self-mastery, the ability to set realistic goals and healthy boundaries. Very much about healthy boundaries as well. So the next 28 days are a really perfect time to work on any of those areas, or all of them if you like, if you're ambitious, right? Now, as best as you can, prepare for the future for the next 28 days. Make commitments and recognize your responsibilities. In other words, nurture your dreams in a realistic manner. Focus on setting and achieving practical and attainable long-term goals. Attainable is very important, right? One step at a time, one day at a time. Capricorn never wants to rush into anything. It's all about quality, right? Rather than rushing. So not focusing on immediate results, but focusing on the quality of the foundation that we are building currently with whatever goals we have, right? So it's all about quality. Now, Capricorn also invites us to set realistic limits and boundaries, which allow everyone involved, yourself and others, to learn from the consequences of our own choices, right? So, because we're all making choices on a daily basis, and these choices have consequences, and that doesn't mean that there always have to be bad consequences, right? Sometimes they're great consequences. So ask yourself, where in my life am I able to set realistic limits and boundaries? Like, where are we able to do that? Because there are certain places in life where we're probably able to do that pretty well. And where is that an obstacle to progress in our lives? You know, where we're not so good at setting those limits and boundaries. And what am I afraid of in those moments when I'm not able to do that? And what would be the worst of that? So if we really dig into that fear of, you know, why are we afraid to do that? You know, what's the worst of that? If we really look into that honestly for ourselves, right? Now, Capricorn relates directly to the level of our own maturity. So when we think of Capricorn as like a soul development, right? From like a very young soul to a very old soul, right? And so as a very young soul, when we just start, you know, coming into this physical world and we're kind of not really familiar with what it's all about, it can feel a little bit harsh and overwhelming, right? So on a very young level, we start out on a more instinctual level with that Capricorn energy, simply wanting to get the results so we can survive on a physical plane, right? We're really trying to survive. And this stage is basically very fear-based and has some scarcity mentality in it because we're not quite used to the physical plane yet, so we don't really understand yet how it fully works. Now, once we get better at living on the earth plane, you know, once on a soul level we have evolved to a more mature level and we can understand the rules a little bit better, we move towards ambition and wanting to challenge ourselves so we can reach our goals and gain recognition and rewards in the process on the earth plane, right? And so this phase is still sometimes fear-based, but we are already taking more responsibility for our part in achieving things and manifesting on a physical plane, you know, our own authority that we have in doing so. Now, eventually, as we grow spiritually and learn more about the laws of matter, earthly ambitions are eventually replaced by spiritual service, like being of service to, you know, the earth, the people that inhabit the earth, the beings that inhabit the earth. And so we recognize that personal gain is not the highest goal to reach. We understand that by making a contribution to society and to life, we are giving to ourselves and to others. And so we're surpassing the physical appearance of separation and connecting to life in its highest form, right? Because as long as we think that there is separation between us and life or us and other beings, right? Whether that's humans or animals or trees or, you know, plants or whatever it is, right? There's life forms, right? As long as we think that there's separation between us and other life forms, you know, that's when we're still kind of not quite understanding the highest vibration of Capricorn. So as a collective, we're still not operating quite on that level, right? But on an individual level, we can start to see, can we move towards operating on that level, right? So on this highest level, we are living in accordance with our conscience from a place of maturity and inner guidance. And that's important, that there's always inner guidance. It's not about the outside world. It's about what is true for me internally. And what do I know is right for me and true for me. So you can ask yourself, what would my life look like if I developed 5% more discipline, 5% more integrity, 5% more commitment towards something that aligns both with myself and with life, right? With all living forms out there. And what if I took 100% responsibility for my life, starting right now in this now moment? And anything with Capricorn, we want to take baby steps. So we want to really just focus on what's true right now in this now moment. Capricorn is not about, it's not a visionary energy like Aquarius, where we're looking into the future and we're trying to be something that we're not. Capricorn is very realistic. It's very much looking at what is so right now. So with taking responsibility in each moment of now, we're just taking it one day at a time. We're taking those baby steps, right? And what if I also responded to situations in my life in a way that respects and serves everyone involved? And that's really important with Capricorn, because it is very much about self-respect and respecting others and respecting life, right? Capricorn is very big on that. And when we don't do that, we tend to give our power away. We tend to give our authority away. Now, this new moon also aligns with Venus and Pluto in Capricorn. Venus very, very closely, and Pluto a little bit of a bigger orb, but still within 10 degrees. And it also squares Uranus in Aries. So there's a lot of aspects that this new moon is making. So first, let's focus on the alignment with Venus and Pluto. This conveys an extra potent message about our perception of physical reality, time and space, right? So how long does something take and where is it taking place, right? And about our relationship to love, our values, right? Because that's all Venus stuff. Also our relationship to power and feeling empowered, which is connected to Pluto. So you want to ask yourself here, if I truly had choice in the matter, right? If I was fully empowered, I had choice in the matter, what kind of future would I choose to step into? What choices would I make? And who would I choose to connect with and why? And who would I choose to not connect with and why not? And again, just these questions don't need to be answered right away. You can leave them as questions and just see what comes up intuitively, right? And if you meditate or journal on it, that's a really great way to access these questions. Now, Venus in conjunction with the new moon advises us to choose wisely and from the heart, right? It's a heart matter. And so you want to ask yourself here, am I true to myself? Really from the heart, not from the head, like really from your heart. Ask yourself, am I true to myself? Am I working too hard without making any progress? Am I expressing my feelings truthfully or hiding my true feelings from others? And am I in touch with what's important to me, especially in regards to relationships? Am I happy? Could I love and respect myself and life 5% more? And these are really great, powerful questions. And if we're having a hard time expressing our feelings, for example, which can be possible with Venus in Capricorn, right? Like, what is the holdback? Where is the fear? What are we afraid of that we're not able to connect with another human being from that place, from that honest place, right? And so really just be honest with yourself when you're investigating these questions, when you're marinating in these questions. Just be honest with yourself as much as you can. Now, with this many planets in Capricorn, of course, it is important for us to take breaks or simply slow down and allow ourselves to tune in. It's important to explore ways to stay heart-centered and grounded in our heart and seek tools or people to help you with that exploration, right? So, Capricorn tends to be very self-sufficient and wants to do everything on our own. But, with Venus there, we can connect with other people and we can say, how can I get supported in my path of self-mastery? How can other people contribute to that? And how can I support other people in contributing to their self-mastery, to understanding their self-mastery a little bit better? So we can definitely look at that and see, you know, who can we reach out to? Who could be the person that can support us with something like that? Now let's talk about the square to Uranus. The new moon is making a very strong square to Uranus, which is the energy of freedom, innovation, and reform. And so this combo really focuses our attention on the right use of power, which respects the rights, needs, and gifts of all beings. So we're really needing to see, like, in which way are we needing to create a change for ourselves, and in which way are we trying to stay on course with certain projects, long-term projects that we feel passionate about or that feel empowering to us, right? So ask yourself, where do I need to be more courageous in my life? And where do I need to think different? And, you know, because if we can't think different, we also can't take different actions, right? So we have to first think different in order to take different actions. And what if I became 5% more aware of my personal power? And where might I have given it away to others? And that's very important, because when we give our power away to other people, when we give our inner authority away to other people, we tend to become victims, or we tend to feel not quite solid within ourselves. We don't seem to have ground under our feet when we do that, right? So where might I have given away my power to other people, and how might I begin to reclaim that power? How can I take that power back? And very often a great way to take your power back is to stand in responsibility, 100% responsibility, right? And if that feels uncomfortable to begin with, you know, start with baby steps. Start with taking just a little bbit more responsibility than you have previously, right? And see what that feels like, without going into a place where you feel that you have to carry the burden of everyone else's responsibility, right? Just take 100% responsibility for yourself. It's not about taking responsibility for others, just for yourself and your responses to life, your actions, your perception of life, all of that. Remember that change is not always progress. Just because we change something doesn't mean that it's going to make it better, right? And that's very important, because with Uranus, there's sometimes such a strong urge to change something that we're not looking to see, is that actually helpful to me or to other people, right? Is that actually beneficial? So consider all options first and then respond. Because with Uranus and Aries, there's an impulsiveness very often, right? So we want to respond rather than react, and be aware of that. If we are reacting, you know, be conscious of the fact that you are reacting and that you're not actually looking at whether this is beneficial or not, that you're just kind of like feeling an anxiousness maybe internally, and so this anxiousness makes you want to take an action, and so that action then becomes this impulsive thing that maybe doesn't even serve you long term, right? So we really want to look, like, does it actually serve me long term if I'm responding in that way or if I'm reacting in that way? So be flexible and be willing to entertain new possibilities. That's very powerful with this aspect, right? Now ask yourself, what if in small or large ways I could help birth a new age, and with it a new world, one that's based on heart-centered consciousness and individual freedoms, right? And that was a really big question, but this is a really, really powerful and very important question for us all to ask ourselves, every single individual. You know, if you're capable of asking yourself that question, that will really push our collective evolution forward big time, you know. So in small or large ways, how could I help birth a new age with a new world based on heart-centered consciousness and individual freedoms? And what does that even mean, and what would that look like, right? But just remember, you don't have to do it all for everybody. You just small ways are good too. You know, whatever you can, wherever you feel like you have influence and you can make a difference in that way, right? Now, the new moon also sextiles Mars in Scorpio and Chiron in Pisces. So a sextile is always an opportunity. So here there's an opportunity for healing our collective wounds around feeling spiritually disconnected in a world of accomplishments, you know, because we live in the Western world especially, right? We live in a world where it's all about achieving, accomplishing, doing, getting results, right? So how can we heal collectively around that spiritual disconnect, you know, that it's not only about accomplishing, but there's a spiritual underlying energy or path that needs to be connected to that in order for it to have meaning, in order for it to be beneficial for everybody, right? Now we get a chance to connect more deeply with other people with that Mars in Scorpio and bring a powerful approach to what we're currently building and working towards. So our actions tend to be in greater alignment with our deepest desires right now. So ask yourself, what if I could be productive and gentle with myself at the same time? What would a compassionate approach guarantee me if I took that approach, right? And what is pushing or pulling at me, right? Because sometimes internally we have these feelings of like something's pushing or pulling at me in order for me to take an action, in order for me to move forward with something. And what might that be that's really pushing or pulling at me, right? And how could my actions become a source of empowerment? And this is true in terms of a source of empowerment for myself and a source of empowerment for other people, right? And what if I allowed all actions to flow from a deep sense of authentic connectedness? Because when we really feel that passionate, authentic connecting with another person, you know, there's this sense of we can do more, we can accomplish more, we can feel more empowered. We have more resources to do things, right? So this can be very helpful to us achieving our goals. Now, what if I forgave myself and others for having flaws or limitations? And that's a very important part as well. And this is where the Chiron, the wounded healer part comes in, right? Because when we're in relationship with other people, we're always dealing with flaws and limitations that other people have. We have them ourselves too, right? It's just that we see them so much more clearly in other people. We don't always see them so clearly in ourselves. And sometimes we do too, right? But with others, it's always so much more apparent that other people have flaws and limitations, right? So we need to look at that and see, okay, how can we forgive, you know, our own flaws and limitations and other people's flaws and limitations, because it's all there. It's all the same, right? We all have them. So we need to learn how to embrace that and learn how to be kind to ourselves with that and with others. Now, given that that Saturn rules Capricorn, Saturn is a very important placement in this new moon chart, right? So we want to take a look at that. And Saturn is currently in its own sign, and it just recently moved and will be there until 2020, right? So if you want to know how Saturn's journey in Capricorn will impact you personally in the next 3 years, you know, feel free to either purchase my 90+ minute webinar on that same subject, or if you're not sure if you want to get the whole webinar, just feel free to watch. I have a 30-minute excerpt of that webinar on YouTube that is about Saturn in Capricorn. You can just look for that. And if you like that 30-minute excerpt, you know, feel free to get the 90+ minute webinar on my website on the online courses page. All right. All of that is available. Now, but let's talk about this new moon chart with Saturn in Capricorn. It is connecting to Mercury. It's conjunct with Mercury in Capricorn at the time of the new moon. So this really reminds us of the power of our mind and that our thoughts and words really matter. Whether they are thoughts that are internally or thoughts that come out of us or that we're writing about, they matter. So you really ask yourself, what am I doing with my thoughts, with my words? What am I doing career-wise or long-term goal-wise with all of that, with that thinking, right? And what is my long-term plan? Do I have a long-term plan? And how can I honor and share those goals with others in a clear and honest way, right? And that's very important. How do I share all of that with other people in a clear and honest way? Is it possible? And can I honor that? Now, it's really seriously time to think about what no longer works with this aspect. And as best as you can, investigate your thought process. Ask yourself, what feels no longer useful in my approach? What if I got really real about that? What that is, what's no longer working, right? And what might be possible if I took 5% more responsibility for my inner dialogue and the energy those thoughts disperse, right? Because thoughts are energy, right? And so as we're thinking, as we're having these inner dialogues, that energy moves. It moves somewhere. It moves out into space, out into the universe, and it connects, with like-minded energy, right? So we want to be very conscious of, what is that inner dialogue? What are we putting out, right? So to sum it all up, for this new moon, we are invited to become mature, responsible planetary citizens, right? Because we're all in this together on this planet, right? While honoring our individuality. So in other words, making a difference one by one, really looking to see what is my contribution, what could be my contribution, even when it seems as though, we're just one person, and how am I going to be able to create a big shift if it's just me, right? But no matter how small, whatever it is that you're contributing seems, every ripple moves something. Every little thing changes something and makes a difference. And it does matter, right? So this cosmic combination that we have with this new moon also really directs our attention to our bottom lines. So you really want to ask yourself, what matters most to me? What are my priorities? And am I living my truth and loving my goals? Do I really love what I do, what I'm creating out there in the world? And where is it best to be flexible? And where must I remain focused and in alignment with my commitments? And this is a very, very vital and important question, because with that square that we're having with Capricorn Aries, right? Like the new moon and Venus and Uranus, right? And Pluto is somewhat involved as well in that. We want to give ourselves flexibility, because without flexibility, if we get too attached or too caught in rigidity, right? We're not doing ourselves or the world a favor either, right? So we need to see, like, when is it best to be flexible as we're following our long-term goals, as we're creating what we desire to manifest, right? Where do we need to be flexible, or where it's best to be flexible? And where is it best to stay focused and in alignment with those commitments that we're currently making to ourselves and to the world, right? So it is a matter of judgment and of choice. When is it best to do this? When is it best to do this, right? So we want to be very conscious of that. And when have I felt the happiest? This is a great question to ask as well with this new moon, because Venus is involved right there with the sun and the moon. When have I felt the happiest in my life? And what if I committed 5% more to the things, people, and places in my life that make me happy? And this is, again, it's a commitment. We're saying, I choose this. This is what I'm choosing. And that's what's really empowering is when we make a choice, a very clear choice, that feels very empowering. So what if I committed 5% more to the things, people, and places in my life that make me happy? Now, inner strength and self-reliance come almost entirely from dealing with adversity, and Capricorn knows all about that, right? So obstacles are a part of life. When things, don't always work smoothly, that's part of life. That's how life is. And if we're not embracing that, if we're denying that that's what life is like, then we get to suffer and we get to experience hardship, right? So obstacles are a part of life, and they show us where we have an opportunity to become more capable, where we can become more of a citizen of this planet, citizen of this earth, and also where we have gone out of alignment with our outer reality or our inner truth, right? So it's either that our outer reality doesn't line up with how we're doing life, or our inner compass is out of whack, right? So ask yourself here, am I on the right track as best as I can tell? Am I on the right track? Am I walking my own path or someone else's? And this is a very important question, because a lot of us are not even aware that we're not walking our own path. We think that we're walking our own path, but if you look at, what society has taught you, what your parents have taught you, what peers or teachers have taught you, are you walking their path or are you walking your own? That's very important to be very honest with yourself about that. And what obstacles can I see or sense from there, right? What if there was value in those obstacles? What if these obstacles were really valuable to us and were actually gifts to us? So whenever there's an obstacle, how can I see that as a gift, right? And could I send these obstacles gratitude for being an opportunity to get me back into greater alignment with myself and my reality? Because that's really what obstacles are doing, right? That's what they're there for. So how can I give gratitude for that, right? Now, choose wisely for 2018, right? Because this is the first new moon of the year. So participate consciously in the evolution of existence on this planet. Not from a place of fear, but from a place of knowing your inner strength and your own personal power and the power of your heart and your own humanity. Knowing that it's okay to be human and it's okay to take things slowly and to really stay open, keep your heart open and keep your inner compass, shining and stay connected to that inner compass. And trust your inner truth, right? Trust that inner truth. Now, if you have an ascendant or any personal planets in 25 to 29 degrees of Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, or Aries, then you will feel the effects of this new moon more strongly. We feel the impact of that new moon more strongly. But even if you don't have personal planets in those degrees and signs, the house placement in your own natal chart affected by this new moon is equally as important to take a look at. So take your birth chart out if you have one and just take a look, where is 27 degrees of Capricorn in your birth chart? What house does that fall into? Which area of life does that impact in your birth chart? And so for the next 28 days, what needs your attention? What needs your focus? Where do you need to set some powerful goals in the next 28 days in that area of your life? And if you don't have a birth chart and you don't know how to look that up in your birth chart, feel free to watch my video on how to read your birth chart, which is available on my website or on YouTube. And towards the end of that video, I talk about how you can get a visual of your birth chart for free online. And you will also learn how to apply what I share in my bi-monthly videos and my weekly forecasts to your own birth chart, right? So this is a really fantastic video. If you haven't seen it yet, it's also a great video to watch before you join the monthly forecasting forums if you haven't joined those yet. And if you want to receive this video via email with some handouts, feel free to email my assistant at info@astrologercoach.com and just write recording in the subject line. And my assistant will send you that email with some handouts. Now, before I talk more about my forums and setting intentions for this new moon, I would like to make a very brief, exciting announcement about my business. You may have heard that announcement already, but there are some updates, so feel free to listen in what the updates are. I'm in the process of creating an amazing online community, right? And so for everyone out there who loves astrology, or everyone out there who wants to explore themselves on a deeper level and wants to live life more consciously, this is going to be really amazing for you. And there is a launch date that is getting closer, because so far I haven't really had a launch date up until now. So right now, my web developers and I, we're aiming for January 16th or 17th. So this is coming up very soon, right around the time of the new moon. And so that will create this whole new platform, which is going to be an amazing online community. And with that, my prices and fees for my readings, my online astrology courses, my monthly forecasting forums, and my coaching healing sessions will change. So, and the reason why I say change is because it will be presented differently. There will be different things available for people. But right now, the way it is on my website, that's how it's going to be only until the launch of the new website. So if you want to take advantage of what it is right now, especially with the online courses, right? Especially with the astrology courses, because those are currently 50% off, which is no longer going to be available in that way after the launch of the new website. So if you want to take advantage of that, go to my website now, to astrologercoach.com, and see what's available there. And if you want to purchase a service, for example, like a reading or a coaching healing session, those services will be available for a whole year to you. So if you want to stock up on those services, do it right now, because usually they're only available for 6 months, but I will extend that to a whole year so that you can stock up if you like. And so that will change once the new website is up. So I hope all of this makes sense. So let me also briefly talk about the monthly forecasting forum for those of you who haven't joined it yet and don't know what it's about. And then we're going to talk about the new moon intentions, I promise, okay? Now, let's briefly talk about the forums. Now, I created these forums to make them supportive for all of you who are already watching my videos, so that you can really apply what I'm talking about in my videos more personally to your own birth charts. And so these forums are more interactive. You can ask questions. You can use your own birth chart while we're talking about what we're talking about, and I will give examples and I will show you how to apply it to your own birth chart. So this is really the next best thing besides getting a one-on-one reading with me, and much more affordable. And so that's why I've created this format, so that it is more accessible to more people, right? So if this sounds interesting to you and you want to participate in that and want to try it out, feel free to join us for our next forum, which will be on February 3rd at 2 p.m. Eastern Time and 11 a.m. Pacific Time and 7 p.m. London Time. And this will be on a Saturday, so hopefully a lot of people will be able to join, because we'll be talking about the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse that's coming up. So these eclipse energies can be very potent and can stir up a lot of stuff inside of us. So it's really nice to be able to know how to use these energies in a way that really serves us, rather than getting anxious or getting confused or getting impulsive with stuff, So I really encourage you to join us for this forum, because I think it will be supportive and helpful for all of us. Now, you can sign up for these webinars to join live, or you can register to receive the video presentation that will be sent out within 24 hours of the live event to everyone who registers. So feel free to register now at astrologercoach.com. And also, if you can, fill out a registration form as well as making your payment at the bottom of the monthly forecasting forum page. That registration form helps me understand whether you want to join live or not. And also, you can ask questions in advance, which I will always do my darndest to answer as many questions as I can, but I will answer those questions first that are sent to me first, okay? And that are also mostly in alignment with what we're covering for that month. So questions around the eclipses, those will be answered first, okay? Now, let's talk about our new moon intentions, since we've been curious about when to set those, right? Now, to set powerful intentions for this moon cycle, we want to make sure that we're setting them after the new moon becomes exact, right? And definitely not during a moon void of course phase, right? So this month, the best and most potent time to set intentions would be any time between 9:17 p.m. On January 16th and 1:30 a.m. January 17th. So that's just a couple of hours. Then there's a moon void, of course, and then you can start setting intentions again at 3:32 a.m. on January 17th until 9:17 p.m. on January 18th. All right, so that's then a much longer time to set intentions, and all of that is New York time, US Eastern time. So if you live in a different time zone than Eastern time, feel free to join my Facebook fan page or my Twitter page, because I will be posting several reminders starting on January 16th in the evening until January 18th to let you know when is the best and most potent time to set those intentions. So when you read those posts, then I'm setting my intentions right now. So you don't even have to, transfer, the time zones into your own time zone if you don't want to. Now, for more information about setting new moon intentions, go to my Facebook fan page and check my notes section from your computer. That unfortunately cannot be accessed from an iPhone or Android phone. So you have to do it via the computer, or you can also go to my website, go to weekly forecasts, click on that link, and then look for astrology articles, and then click on that link, and then you will find an article on how to set new moon intentions. All right. Now, again, all of the questions from this video are also available on my website at astrologercoach.com via my weekly forecasts after January 14th. If you would like to receive my weekly forecasts every Sunday evening via email in your inbox in the future, then feel free to email us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write weekly forecasts in the subject line, and my assistant will add you to that mailing list. There's also a second mailing list, which is just for my newsletter, and that mailing list is just about sending my videos out. It's about telling you about special offers, announcements that I have about courses or my business or the monthly forecasting forums. So any of that goes out with the newsletter, and that's approximately twice a month, sometimes 3 times a month. So if you want to receive that, feel free to email us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write newsletter in the subject line. Okay, so that's it. Get ready for eclipse season and enjoy this new moon and go within. Remember, it's a time to go within. It's not an extroverted time. It's an introverted time, the new moon time. And if you have any general questions for me, then feel free to reach out to Sonja at astrologercoach.com. Anything that requires of me to pull up your birth chart, I will ask you to book a reading with me. Or you can also register for the monthly forecasting forum and ask your questions there. So that's it. All right. Thanks. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back again soon with the lunar eclipse video in a couple of weeks so that you can get ready for eclipse season. All right, have a good one. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.